against the Houston Rockets. We're going to get into all that and more on today's Locked On Bulls.
I don't want to.
You are Locked On Bulls, your daily podcast on the Chicago Bulls, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for tuning in to Locked On Bulls. Remember the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. First-time users can receive 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with promo code Locked On. That's PrizePicks.com, promo code Locked On. That's Pat, the designer, host and creator of the Windy City Breeze. I'm Haize, host and creator of Chicago Bulls Central. Pat, I don't even know how to feel anymore, bro. Like, this team, man, why can't we keep it up? Like, and don't get me wrong, the Houston Rockets in the last stretch, they beat the Bucks, they beat the Suns, they beat a lot of really good teams lately. So, we're not in bad company of teams, of the 10 teams that the Houston Rockets have beat so far this season. But watching this game, bro, this was just completely disheartening.
It's the same things we said all year. And it's the reason that I asked this question. I said this over on the Breeze. It's the reason I asked this question early. How many games is it going to take for you to feel like this Bulls team is moving in the right direction? Because games like this happen where they look lifeless. And I'm not just saying get beat. Listen, teams get beat. And sometimes you get beat bad. And sometimes you get beat by teams you're not supposed to. But again, another lifeless effort. Another effort where, literally, at this point, if you think Billy Donovan's system doesn't work, I don't know what you're looking at, because the one time they ran it was in the second quarter when the Bulls fought back into the game, and it was just ISO ball the rest of the way. I swear, it got to a point where I was like, fam, how many off-screen one-dribble pull-ups are we going to do? We're not even doing 2 dribble pull-ups no more. It's just 1 dribble pull-up. Just a 1 dribble pull-up. And it's the same thing. You're not trying to run a set. You're not trying to run any form of systematic basketball. You didn't try to get the ball down to Vooch. You didn't try to establish anything in the paint. You tried to do that stupid driving kick that hasn't worked for us all year. Like, literally, has there been a game where we've dominated on the driving kick?
Yeah.
Which one?
Scrimmages in
ain't no way. Tony Bradley must be out there knocking them down. Because it ain't no way that anybody we seeing on the court is knocking them down. It's sad, dog. And it's like, at this point, right? And I want y'all to understand this. I'm not calling the players stupid, but to do things that you just know don't work is stupidity. It hasn't worked.
The one thing that we talked about that we've had in our conversations is how long is it going to take the Bulls' new play style to really become muscle memory, to become second nature? And what we saw today is that when the Bulls got punched in their mouth going in that first quarter and the game started to get they opened it up on a 15-5 run, yeah. The Bulls at that point went back to the isolation ball. They then got back to the team basketball in the second quarter. Fine. They started off the third quarter being back that team, moving the ball around. The Houston Rockets put it together a nice stretch, and we saw the Bulls devolve back into heavy isolation ball. So the new play style, if we can call it that, we asked the question on the preview episode over, is it sustainable? This type of play is absolutely sustainable, but the Bulls players have to mentally get over the hump of, I can't default back into this just because we're pressing. We have to operate with the game plan, and they didn't do that.
And you got to understand, listen, there's only so much a coach can do. At this point, I'm looking at every single player on this team, and I'm saying every single player on this team. And I know, listen, at the end of the day, yes, this is one loss in the grand scheme of things, but if you don't start getting some wins, it's going to be a big – this is the norm on these losses, right? Like, if we end up going – if we end up going on another 3-game win streak and this is the one loss we get, okay, we dropped a bad game to Houston. But you got to show me that before I feel better about where we're at right now. But I think this is the thing, right? Like, I'm past giving players a pass. I'm past looking at players and saying it's okay that you missed that assignment. And I think Billy Donovan is too, right? And I think that's the biggest issue with his teams defensively. How many times are we talking about missed assignments? How many times are we talking about Ayo Dosunmu not sliding over? How many times have we have to talk about Patrick Williams not sliding over? I'm cooking everybody. It's not just Zach LaVine and Amar Arnell Rosen in these games, bro. P. Will is missing his assignments too often. Ayo Dosunmu looks bad. He looks like a bad basketball player out there. Like Ayo Dosunmu looks like what Kobe White looked like last year. Ayo Dosunmu looks awful on the court. He not what he do? Knock down 2 threes. He's not playing well defensively. He's not staying in front of his man. Now I get right, like pelvic injury might take a little bit of time to heal. Maybe he's not moving as well. But if that's the case, stop having him start.
Man, I feel what you're saying there. That Kobe comparison is tough. When are we gonna? I know you said Billy Donovan's system works, and while offensively I can generally agree with you, Billy Donovan's defensive system, like at some point you just got to stop. This team cannot be the switch. If you want us to be the switch heavy team, you got to change the personnel. Clearly, we don't have the personnel to switch.
I agree with that. I do agree with that. Yeah. The switching is stupid. Again, something else is stupid. I do agree with that. But the hard part is, right, like, you have such poor defenders that you have to go under the screen. So if you're going under the screen in that case, especially if you're running a box and one, the only option is for you switcher. You're going to get blown by every time, right? Like, I mean, like, and even, right, just the help, even just the flash, like, you got to do a little bit of something, and it puts you so far out of position. So, like, I understand it, but there's just so many, like, and I'm not even going to say poor defense. I'm taking that away. They can defend. There's such a lack of want to defend at times on this team.
And I said this over on Central as well, and I got to piggyback off your Ayo point. Ayo is not the defender, even the defender he was last season.
Ayo looks awful.
Like, he's just, like, the offensive game comes and goes. It came and went at times last season, too. I'm not going to judge him too much. Well, to a point, right? He doesn't get completely abstained from that. But the one thing that Ayo kind of built his name on was the branded defense he gets. And for every game that we see on Jalen Brunson, when he forces Jalen Brunson to go 5 of 15 and stuff like that, we get games where Ayo is almost a non-factor defensively. And I still believe in Ayo's future and progression, and it could be a sophomore slump. It happens, whatever. But we have to also hold it accountable. If I'm going to call Amar Rosen, nobody can get a pass on that. And Ayo Dosunmu can't get a pass on it either because he's not playing any defense.
We're taking a D away from him. I don't know if
we're taking a D from Ayo. No, we're taking a D away from Ayo.
No, I agree with you. It's just, and here's the thing. It's not to say that all of a sudden we think Ayo is going to be like, he's never going to be a good player. I do believe Ayo is going to be a good player. I think he's going to be a really good player. And the one thing that I hate is when people are overly critical, right? Like this season, Scotty Barnes having a down year, and everybody's just like, what's wrong with Scotty Barnes? I'm like, the same thing that's been wrong with most rookies in all history in their second year. You have a little bit of a sophomore slump. You come back down to earth. People know how to play you a little bit different. People know how to attack Ayo Dosunmu a little bit different this season, right? They've got tape on Ayo now. Now they know how to attack his game. He's got to figure out how to bounce back and counter back on that. And there are moments where he can. There's moments where he can't. I think there's just more work that needs to be done. I'm not saying that Ayo Dosunmu is going to be a terrible player moving forward, but the one thing that we heard coming into this season and that this Rockets game really accentuates is that, hey, these guys were going to be reasons why the Chicago Bulls team is going to be good. And that has not been the case with any of these guys. Patrick Williams, sure, he took a step. What's the step up to? 12 points a game and missed assignments on defense?
Bro.
I mean,
shout out to Patrick Williams' aggressiveness on offense today, because I do want to acknowledge that, because we kill him for not being aggressive on offense. He showed some aggression. Sometimes he hesitated to take shots that I wish he would have just taken outright. Yeah. But that aside, offensively, coming along. Defensively, this game, it's almost like me and you were having a little pregame meeting. I'm going to let you give your own theory, but it was almost like Patrick Williams his reaction time was a little bit slower than what we're used to, and that's all I'll say.
They always hung over from Christmas. That's how they look.
Christmas.
They all look like they was hung over from Christmas. Honestly, bro. And here's the thing. That could also be a factor. I've seen that. I've seen Shaq play Shaq play poorly after holidays. I've seen. I've never seen Kobe play poorly after holiday. I'm not gonna lie to you, but I've seen.
No, Kobe was
Kobe.
like, Kobe's the type that literally he'd be like, "Hey man, don't hand me none of that. I gotta play tomorrow."
You know what I mean? Or he's like, "No, I'm gonna slam this, but also I'm still finna put up 50 on you." That's how much I don't respect your game. But I honestly, right? Like, I've seen players play poorly off of holidays, and you know what? Tell me that that's the reason, right? Not saying like come out and tell me in the media. Tell me that's the reason in your next game versus Milwaukee as you keep going, right? Like there's a lot of season left, and this can be one dropped loss in the bucket. But y'all have to make it one dropped loss in the bucket. And the problem is that hasn't been the Bulls team we've seen this year. We've seen a Bulls team that has come in every single game.
And it should say a lot that this team is technically 3-1 in their last 4, and we take this one loss and we're like, man, it's probably from the start again.
It's just because of how it looked, bro. And here's the thing. Here's the part that pissed me off. It's a mentality at this point. There were 5 minutes left. We were down 13.
They weren't playing with any. It was like they wanted the game to go ahead and be over.
We were down 13 points with 5 minutes left. We scored 13 points with a little over 2 minutes to go in the second quarter to take a 1-point lead. So it's just like all you have to like. It's here. It's up here. And you know what? I'm gonna be real with you. They don't have it up here. This is a mentally weak basketball team.
And we'll pick up that point on the mental weakness of that team after this. First, we got to talk about Prize Picks. And so what I do like about Prize Picks, if you guys haven't, it makes daily fantasy just easy. So how does it work? You pick 2 to 6 players, and if they will go to score more or less than their Prize Picks projections, you can win up to 25 times your money on any entry. They keep going up on that, by the way, so take advantage of it. No competing against other people. It's just you versus the projections available. PrizePicks offers projections on any sport that you watch. This includes NBA, NFL, MLB, NHL, PGA, college football, men's college basketball, women's college basketball, WNBA, esports, and more. Entries can be made in 60 seconds or less. It's just that easy. Safe and fast withdrawals, currently operational in over 30 states and Canada. So download the PrizePicks apps or go to prizepicks.com to sign up and play daily fantasy sports. First-time users can receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with promo code LOCKEDON. If you deposit $100, PrizePicks will give you $100. If you deposit $50, PrizePicks will give you $50. Don't forget to enter promo code LOCKEDON at sign up for instant deposit match of up to $100.
We want to thank you for making Locked On Bulls your first listen every day, even after watching this terrible team. Hey, for your second listen, make sure to check out Locked On Sports Today for the biggest stories around the sports world in 20 minutes or less, plus instant reaction, game recaps, and Locked On's Take of the Day. Locked On Sports Today available on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts.
All right, so we talked about the weak mentality of this team, and shout out to Jihad Dean who asked this question in the chat. I feel like this is nice to pick up on this. Yo, Haize and Pat, is it safe to say that we are in panic mode as fans? I tell you what, as fans, you can panic if you want to. I can't knock you if you do. But as players, this team needs to be panicking because guess what? It's not getting any easier. From here until January 15th is a tough stretch for the Chicago Bulls. Pat, got to talk to you about this. How much is the mental instability of this team concern you when looking at this next stretch of games that's coming up for this team?
It's tough, right? Because here's the thing. Like, I could say, oh, yeah, the Bulls are poor mentally, right? They're not stable. They don't, but they play well against the best teams. They go out there and they get up for Boston. They go out there and they get up for Cleveland. They go out there and they get up for Milwaukee. They go out there. Like, we've seen it all season. And so I think the part for me where I don't know if I'm in panic mode, just because, like, to me, what am I panicking for? Like, at this point, you're looking at a team that is continuing to make the same mistakes. When they're winning, those mistakes are nowhere to be found. When they're losing, it's the most glaring part of the team, and yet they don't fix them. So at this point, it's not panic because, listen, DeMar DeRozan's on a great contract. Like, you can move him if you needed to, right? Like, there's still options for the Bulls to go here. Like, I don't think that it's at the end of the road. And you know what? Zach LaVine is playing better in the month of December, although not tonight, but for the most of the month of December, right? Zach
9 of
LaVine
19.
has played better. He's looking like the guy that you wanted to pay. I'm not going to say one game takes all of that away for how he's played for an entire month, but at the end of the day, I watch the Houston Rockets make mistakes, and I watch the Bulls make the same mistakes. The Houston Rockets average age is like 23. The Bulls is like almost 30. We shouldn't be talking about teams making the same mental mistakes over and over and over and over again. We just shouldn't. Not at the point where we're at.
At some point, this team has to. Well, let me phrase it this way. I'm going to talk about every facet of this franchise right now. At some point, Billy Donovan has to either put the ball in other people's hands and say we're going to sink or swim, but at least we're going to develop, if nothing else. At some point, Zach LaVine, DeMar DeRozan, Nikola Vucevic, every player on the team from top to bottom got to look at themselves and say, am I giving the effort needed to get this team out of this rut?
Yeah.
And then AK and Eversley also have to look at this team and say, is this the team we really want to back? Do we need to make a move? Do we need to make adjustments? Every facet, every level of this franchise has to be reevaluated, both internally with their own game and how things are going to have to go moving forward. It seems like the only thing that we know for sure that going forward is we got AK and Eversley, and Billy Donovan got an extension. He's not going anywhere. Everything other than that, right or wrong, whether you agree or disagree, something got to give, bro. And you can only give, and that's why I looked at this January 15th, and hopefully AK and Eversley are looking at it too and saying, hey, wherever we are by January 15th when we play the Golden State Warriors, at that point in time, we will have, if I'm not incorrect, it'll be like 29 days into the trade deadline. Something may have to happen.
This is the tough part for me. Unless you're going to make drastic change, which I guess trading DeMar would be drastic change. Unless you're going to make drastic change, what's going to change with this team? And the reason I say that is because you have a Bulls team right now that it looks like at times it doesn't matter what system Billy Donovan puts out there. If they don't want to play it, they ain't going to play it. It looks like at times defensively, it doesn't matter what system Billy Donovan puts out there. Because we're gonna miss assignments, we're gonna fall asleep on the back door, right? Like there's so many things with this Bulls team that I look at and I'm just like, yeah, I can see why that would be a problem. Because you're just not gonna give the effort, and I don't know if is a trade fix that. Like, are you gonna trade for a leader? You're gonna trade for a leader of your team?
That's probably not.
You know what I'm saying? Like your leaders aren't giving you that effort, night in and night out, I should say. Like, your leaders are taking nights off. DeMar came out. DeMar shot the ball well. Didn't lead on the defensive end. Never leads on the defensive end. It's one of those things to me where, again, we talked about mental stability with this team and where this team is at. It's almost like the leader of this team right now, and I think I can see it based on the play, is DeMar, even though Zach is the highest paid player. And the team just follows whatever he does. So DeMar was cooking one-on-one. Everybody can't do that. DeMar was cooking his man, legitimately. He was killing.
Yeah, but that goes back to the point that I think me and you've both been trying to make. Okay, DeMar was cooking his man. And this is why you have to reevaluate the makeup of the team, because DeMar cooking one-on-one is losing basketball.
Yeah. Yeah.
Period. DeMar DeRozan can average 35 points per game, and guess how many wins the Chicago Bulls will have on that season? 18.
I was going to say 35. 35 points.
Either way,
35 points a game. You're going to get 35 wins.
No, bro. Come on. Like, it's not going to. So for all the people like, well, DeMar this, DeMar that, DeMar's great, DeMar's that. Okay, that's cool. Let DeMar cook. Tell me how many wins that's going to get you.
I mean, listen, I think the thing for me is that I can see it. You can see it work, but you can't have everybody follow it. And I think that's the biggest thing that was the takeaway for me. When DeMar started going one-on-one, Zach started going one-on-one. Zach wasn't running the offense. Like, it doesn't have to be every play down.
Do you think it's a cold war? Is that what we're, again, not to say that they get along off the court fine, right? But do you think in them trying to find their balance together on the court together, is there a pseudo cold war going on between Zach LaVine and DeMar DeRozan? Because you make a great point. When both are playing within the team and the team's winning, it's rocking and rolling. Yeah. When things break down and one goes into isolation ball, it's like the other one's proving, oh, I can isolate too. That's cool. Y'all not winning.
I think that's the part where I say, right, like DeMar seems like he's like whatever DeMar does, that's what the team goes to. When DeMar buys into playing a team style of game, seems like the Bulls buy into playing the team style of game. I can't even say that too, though, because Zach LaVine has played the system when DeMar refused to at times. So
this is true.
I can't say that. I think tonight that's what it was. I think tonight that's what we saw. DeMar went one-on-one. Zach decided to go one-on-one. Heck, Goran Dragic went one-on-one. Like, Goran Dragic drove in. That's when I knew it was. That's when I really knew, like, in my heart, I was like, yeah, they're not fighting back in this. Goran Dragic drove into a one-on-one.
Let me tell you when I knew this game was over.
Bro.
Maybe that was the play you finished it. Goran Dragic drove into the lane.
Hey, bro.
Did a pump fake and an up and under. And I was just looking like, when did Goran Dragic become Allen Iverson?
Hey, bro, Goran Dragic drove into 5 guys like he was trying to get a burger, bro. Like
that was, bro. That's crazy, bro. That's wild. All right, yeah.
Hey, man. Before we get into this final topic, man, we got some bright spots in this game. I will say that there's at least one. There's at least one that we can look to, and it might unfortunately, it might be the piece that ends up getting moved to try and fix this thing. We do have to tell you guys about BetOnline.net. They are your number one source for all your betting needs. Here's the thing about BetOnline, man. You go over there and you can get the latest odds, trends for every professional and amateur league out there, from pro football to college bowl season to basketball in the World Cup. We've got it all over at betonline.net. And if you love sports podcasts, you can even find those at BetOnline as well. They are the fastest and easiest way to get your betting info. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more. BetOnline, it's where the game starts.
This team stresses my life out.
Yeah, bro.
Yeah. So you talked about a bright spot, and the one lone bright spot, again, I'm not giving it to DeMar DeRozan for the 31 points. Shout out to DeMar for balling. Kobe White has evolved into such a piece for this team coming off the bench. Didn't score, I don't think, any points in the first half, but played some really great defense. Comes in, ends up this game with 3 rebounds, 4 assists, 2 steals, 14 points, and had the highest plus minus. Am I seeing that right? The only player with a positive plus minus on the team was Kobe White. Here's the question I'm going to present to you so we can have a conversation about it. So I know you said and mentioned it at the end of the last segment, possibly getting Kobe White's trade value up. Here's the thing that I want to look for. Do you look at Kobe's improved play as upping his trade value, or do you look at it as saying, maybe we can move some of these other pieces and end up keeping our 22-year-old young player who looks like he's rounding out to be a heck of a bench piece for us?
I mean, you can go either way with it, right? Like, listen, he's 22 and he's finally playing well. If the Bulls kept him, I wouldn't sit there and look and be like, how could you keep this guy? He's 22 years old. If you traded him, I also wouldn't look at it and say, how can you not keep this guy? He's 22 years old and he's been up and down his whole career. And finally, he's giving you a season, granted, the first off season that he's had in his career, where he's looking like the player that you wanted him to be. I mean, for me, right, like I think the big thing is, can he continue to do this? Can he sustain this? Because we've seen Kobe have hot months. We've seen Kobe have months where he's playing well. We've seen Kobe look like the Kobe White that finally turned the corner. And then we've gotten to the end of the season. We've been like, why this man can't shoot no more? What happened to that? If everybody that was sitting there just like, oh, man, you can't use Kobe White as a spot-up shooter. Heck, it's what he's doing best this season. Catch and shoot, spotting up, knocking it down, cashing out. I love the way Coby White has played this season, and I love how he played in this game, man. I mean, he came out. Listen, I can't kill everybody. Like the rest of the team is trash. But Coby White came out tonight. I mean, he gave you some solid defense. He gave you hustle. He gave you heart. He's probably the only person that that really came out and showed any heart tonight. And so for me, right, like I think Coby White is trending in the right direction. It's just about can he sustain that?
That's fair.
And I mean, at this point, right, like you almost you put yourself in a position where, not to say it's a bad position, but the only way where you're gonna get Coby White is if you overpay for Coby White at this point, to me. Because I said this before. Kobe's going to get 15 to 18 million. And if he keeps playing like this, somebody's going to offer him 20. Like that's regular bench player numbers if you're a top bench piece.
That's the thing. Like, even with his improved play, he's still an inconsistent shooter. I don't know if any team looks at him as a top bench piece, but he can be a hell of a piece on a team for the bench. I just don't. I don't know if any team necessarily looks at him and saying this is the top bench piece for us to get us over the top, even with his improved play. But I can completely be wrong. I said Kobe's going to get anywhere between 9.5 to 12 million before coming into the season, but I can see it now with his improved play, it easily getting up to 15 million. I don't know about 20. But up to
I mean, listen, like I say, he's got to be consistent like this the rest of the season if he's going to get up to 20. But I think, right, like those are bench pieces, right? Like those are bench pieces that you rely on. They're regular rotation pieces, and that's what Coby White has been to this point. So I love that he's improved his play. I think that, I mean, are you seeing development to me that says that we're going to get to a point where Coby White shouldn't be on the bench? I guess that's kind of where the pay, the do you overpay to keep him around, right? Like, because to me, if you pay Coby White 15 to 17 million, he's playing well, and he's passing the ball like he's been passing. I mean, Coby has thrown some dimes out here, by the way. He's defending the way he's been defending, right? Like you're basically saying, okay, we're going to overpay for you, even though you're not coming up, you're not starting right now. One day we expect you to be back in the starting lineup. Like, do you think that he's improving on that trajectory?
So with the improved player Coby White, I mean, I could see him starting. The makeup of this team would have to drastically change, like for that to happen. Because just when you look at it, like
anyway,
I mean, yeah, that could happen anywhere. But you got Ayo Lonzo ahead of him at the point. He's definitely not going to start over Zach at the 2. Don't see you starting him at the 3. So it would have to be some serious pieces move for Coby to get back into that starting lineup. But I will say this: I can absolutely see him getting starter level minutes if this continues for sure.
Yeah, even that, right? Like becoming a 6 man off of the bench, stuff like that. Like, and listen, you make good money doing that. Ask Lou Will. But I don't know, man. Like Coby White to me, I'm very proud of him, the way he's improved his game and how I mean, honestly, right? It tells you how much of an offseason makes a difference. But even with Coby White, right? Like the biggest issue hasn't always been Coby White just being consistent. The biggest issue is, again, just like all of our number 7 picks in the draft that we took over that span, can he stay on the court? Can he stay healthy? He looks better. He's moving better. He's playing better. He looks like he's going to have himself a pretty healthy season this year, but the NBA is a weird place, man. Anthony Davis looked like an MVP candidate, and now he ain't got no foot. So it's just, I mean, like the NBA is a weird place, though. I don't know. I'm just, it's one of those things to me where, like you said, it's about the makeup of this team and where we see this team moving forward. I'll ask you this: do you think that this team looks different after Jan 1 or after the trade deadline this year?
Oh man, I think it looks different. I don't think it looks as different as some people are hoping or expecting. But I don't know if one of the big 3 gets moved. But I'm going to tell you this: I think we may look to consolidate, meaning that while we have Javonte and Derrick Jones Jr. and Alex Caruso and Goran Dragic and Andre Drummond and Coby White, that we may have to consolidate 2 of those players, maybe 3 of those players, for a key bench piece that can do something.
Let me ask you this. Let's run through it real quick then, because it's a lot of trash out here. Vooch still on the team after the trade deadline.
You want me to put a percentage on it or just a yes or no?
No, just a yes or no.
That's
Dang, first player I gave you stumped you.
I mean, because it's difficult because it depends on the route that the Bulls go. If they're going complete like heavy retool or light retool, that's why I asked for percentages because it's easier then.
Okay, go percentage. Vooch still on the team.
I'll say there's a 65% chance he's still on the team.
Zach LaVine.
100% chance he's still on the team.
Ayo Dosunmu.
98% chance he's still on the team.
DeMar DeRozan.
85.
Dang, that's high. Okay, so you still got everybody sticking around. Pat Will.
100. He's not going nowhere.
Kobe White.
45%.
Oh, so you got Kobe probably getting moved. Drummond.
He's not going nowhere. 85%.
Dragic.
80%.
And then it's DJJ.
DJJ, I'm going to give him 85% too. Javante, you didn't ask about Javante, but I'll tell you this right now, and this may be where the conversation goes. Yeah. I'm giving Javante Green a 45% chance of still being on.
I think Javante is a piece that gets moved too, and I'm gonna be sad about it. But I do think
I'm gonna be pissed. But when you look at it, right, especially with the Kobe's improved play, he's a more versatile scorer. If the Bulls look to add size, it's going to eliminate a spot that Javante plays in. And Javante's 29 years old, going into unrestricted free agency for the very first time.
Yep.
He's going to look to get the most money possible. And because of that, you may not be willing to get into that bidding war.
I don't think Javante's going to make that much. I'm not going to lie to you. That shot ain't improved that much.
The shot
I like his I love it.
But
I love his defense.
If he goes to a team, for example, a team that's clearly missing Gary Payton II, you can't tell me Golden State Warriors wouldn't offer their full mid-level exception for Javante Green. They don't need any shooting from him.
That's a big difference, though. Gary Payton II is how tall?
I don't know.
Gary Payton II was like 6'3", wasn't he? 6'3".
But that's what I'm saying. But you literally, but the way they use him at the two slash, you can't tell me that Golden State Warriors would not necessarily offer Javante a full. I would not be surprised at all if they did that.
Here's the final one, and I think there's more of a chance than maybe a lot of people think, and it would sadden me as well. Alex Caruso.
Bro, honestly, it may become down to Alex Caruso or Kobe and Ayo. Even though I love Alex Caruso, I'm still going to give it a higher chance that he stays, but I'm giving it a 70% chance. Not as high as the other ones.
I don't disagree. I would actually give it a little bit lower because I think you have to get to a point where you're saying, okay, we clearly need some help down low. And I hate all of it, at least for Billy Donovan. I hate everybody who's a big man outside of Vooch and Drummond. And sometimes I hate Drummond.
I feel you.
Like,
he's a very frustrating player at times, bro.
You gotta. I'm not saying I hate him. Billy Donovan hate him. I love him. Hey, put him out there. But I think you've got to make that decision on what direction you want to load your team up at. And right now we loaded up at guards, and small ball ain't working on a consistent basis.
Yeah.
I don't know if it fixes the heart of this Bulls team, but it is what it is. I don't know.
Yeah, we'll see. By the way, we got some live footage of Zach LaVine and DeMar DeRozan's Cold War against each other.
Let's see this. What we got?
This is what we got.
Oh man,
this is what we got. Like, yes, they are apparently slap boxing out there in the locker room. That's what we got. They playing pity patty. But
that's tough because I think that actual picture is a picture of Batman and Superman in hell, which also kind of describes what his Bulls
where the Bulls team is right now. Right?
Oh God.
Oh man, that's crazy, man. Go ahead.
We got like 50 something more games of this. Hey man, appreciate y'all for tuning in and rocking with us. Hit that like button, subscribe to the page as always, man. Follow me on everything at Pat the Designer. Follow us both on everything at Locked On Bulls. Appreciate y'all for showing love.
And you can follow me at CEO Haize, CEO Haize. And thank you for making Locked On Bulls your first listen every day. Now make Locked On Sports Today your second listen. Peter Bukowski brings you the biggest stories from around the sports world in 20 minutes. Get the analysis and opinions before anyone else with our local and national experts and insiders. Locked On Sports Today, available on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. For Pat the Designer, I'm Haize. This is Locked On Bulls, and we out this mug. Peace.
Peace.